started falling in love with the humans, and gave up their immortality to be with their human partners and have kids. And the kids of those humans, the kindred, are the descendant that are now the only powers left, so all the gods are not in the world anymore. We only have the descendant left, which I don't know if I would say they're like Fae, because I think they're just like superhumans in a way. They have like magical powers and are like stronger and stuff like that. So yeah, that's kind of the lore set up. But in this world, the descendant have kind of taken power over the humans. The humans are very, very suppressed. And there's kind of a theme through all the books, because you'll see in a second that I also wrote book 2 and 3. But that kind of follows throughout the book. So DM is a human healer and is kind of living in these like human quarters where the descendant kind of keep the humans really low. Like they're like the worker bees, and they're not allowed in their like descendant cities and whatnot. Like really think oppressive systems, okay? And DM one day finds that her mother is missing, and her mother used to be the descendants like palace healer. So to kind of find out what happened to her mother, she takes her place as the descendant healer in the palace, and from there on it's kind of the starting point of everything, which is so hard to explain because there's so much that is going to happen from that on, okay? But I really enjoyed the first book. I will say, even when the first book finishes, you have very, very little idea of where the storyline is gonna go. I feel like I was very, like the storyline throughout the whole series is so unpredictable. I feel like if I would have told you, you know, what's gonna happen, you wouldn't believe me, because it's so crazy. But yeah, I really enjoyed the first book. I'm not sure if I gave it 5 stars or 4.5. I gave it 4 stars. In the realm of like first books, it's a good book. However, we're doing a lot of world setting up, and our main character does know very, very little. You kind of learn more about the world and about the story and where we're gonna go as she learns about it, which means we're going very slow. She's also not she's a very naive main character, and I personally didn't mind too much, but I think, because I've read some good readers' reviews, that they thought, like a lot of people thought that was like really annoying. So I think if you're annoyed by that easily, you know, this might not be a girl. However, I thought it was alright, and I had a great time reading the first book. So much so that I did immediately pick up the second one, which is Glow of the Everflame. Now, what I didn't tell you yet is that there is a very handsome, broody, moody, descended prince that our girl meets in the palace. And obviously, we're kind of getting a setup for a romantasy here. The say everything that you want, you know, goes. That he's very rarely opposing her at all. And I kinda need them to have like more drama. I don't know, I kinda need them to be like, not like fighting it out, but my girl also needs a reality check every now and then. And he's not giving it to her, okay? She's a very impulsive character that doesn't think a lot about what she's gonna do, and that is kind of something, you know, it's a little bit annoyed me on and off throughout the book. But in book 2 we kind of go deeper into the world. We definitely go deeper into politics and the magical system that is going on. I'm trying to like really not spoil anything here, and I would say that book 2 is the best one. I think I gave it 5 stars. It's like on Goodreads because you can't do half stars, but I think realistically, yeah, it's like a 4.5. I definitely really enjoyed this series, like to the point where I'd say I loved it. I had such a fun time reading it. However, it's also not my absolute favorite story in the world, you know. But I love these books. I like gobbled them up so quickly. I think I read book 2 and book 3 like in concession in like 3 days, unironically. But yeah, book 2 is my favorite. I did read the very hefty, huge Jungle Donkery. I think this is like 800 pages. That is the third book. I think, yeah, it's like 800 pages, and the font is tiny. Of the Everflame, which again, it's the third book. And I gave this one 4 stars. I was still so absorbed in the story. I loved it. I loved every single second of reading it. However, there were kind of things that annoyed me a little bit. It like dragged on a little bit. Because this is the book where we can start to explore the other kingdoms, and like we're going out of our kingdom, of our contained like city we've been in for the first 2 books, and we go out into the world, which this is usually always what makes or breaks a fantasy series for me. It was a bit, you know, long at points. This could have probably been a good 300 pages less. But I enjoyed learning about the different places. I enjoyed where the story was going. I will say at this point of the series, the romance has romanced. And we just are being like kept apart from each other for very little reason. And you're not getting much romance in this book. I personally feel like there wasn't, like we're kind of done with the romance now. And the next thing is I didn't love where the story is going. I'm quite excited about book 4, and that's coming out next year, which is one of the bigger grievances in my life. But I am a bit scared of book 4 because I didn't like the direction it's going in. I didn't like it at all. But we'll see. Yeah, it's a really good fantasy series. I would definitely say it's a bit more YA. If I'm being completely honest, it is not really an adult fantasy. Maybe it's kind of the bridge between YA and adult fantasy. So I would say if you're a like adult fantasy only reader, this is not your girl. If you're a YA fantasy reader, I think you could dabble. Read the first book, you know, see what you think. And if you think, see if you want to move on. I will say, so one, like the space is not a lot, like person, and she's like, they deserve a second chance, and it's like, and guess who comes back, and it's got about any else like that, you know, and she just doesn't learn. She doesn't learn. Regardless, I really enjoyed the series, like, as much as of shit that I'm giving it. I did love it, okay? I had such a good time reading this. I was sad for this book. I think I read this in like 4 or 5 days, and I only read so slow because I was on holidays and had to do other things other than reading when I left it. But yeah, I think the whole story, or the whole series itself, is like an overall like 4-star series for me. Okay, next was my book club's pick for this month, which was Not Quite Dead Yet by Holly Jackson. I unfortunately forgot my ebook reader, so I'll be just tapping on this book. But I was very excited to read this with the book club. This was kind of our first thriller. Like, I think they're not technically YA anymore, but adult. But I feel like they feel very YA. I don't know. So the story follows Jet, our main character, who, when she gets home, gets like really badly hit over the head by an attacker who is trying to kill her. And she wakes up in her hospital, not in the hotel, the hospital. And to tell her she has 7 days, 7 days left to live, because while she didn't immediately die, there's like some splinter who's gonna like, regardless, she's gonna die in 7 days. And she sets out on a mission to find out who killed her, to kind of like solve her own murder. And I don't know, I loved the premise of this book, okay? The idea behind it is so fun. And obviously Holly Jackson fashion, you kind of go on this like wild goose chase, and there's so much coming out. There are so many different people involved in this storyline. It's really fun. I will say though, I gave it 4 stars because I did really enjoy the reads. Holly Jackson reads always like really fast, really fun for me. But I have a bit of a love and hate relationship with Holly Jackson's books. Because what she does to fault is she only introduces people that are relevant to the story in some way. So almost everyone who's introduced has some involvement in what is happening. You just have to find out what. Which I find gives a lot away in a thriller on the suspense for me. Maybe because at this point in my life I have read a lot of thrillers. But you know, if there's like a random ex-boyfriend that's like heavenly mentioned, you're just like, oh, okay, yes, I know who did that, you know. And then, if you don't want any spoilers, okay, and this goes not only for this book, but for all Holly Jackson books, please skip ahead a little bit. But if you read them all, you know, like, you can stay. But it's a very mild spoiler. However, if you don't want any spoilers at all, do skip ahead it is a spoiler, you know, so I thought that was really annoying. I am like a little bit annoyed about this, and I feel like this is a very niche issue. I haven't had anyone else talk about this, but it just grinds my gears so much. Because I get it, if this is a political topic she's very passionate about, I get it, but like at this point, you're literally spoiling your book. You're spoiling your book. You're spoiling your own book. Because their like hatred for the police is just such a constant in all the books. I don't know what to say. I think I really enjoy stories, but like personally, if the next book is just gonna be again this issue, right? I'll read other books. I don't know. I cannot deal with it anymore. But anyway, I did have a lot of fun reading this book. It is not her best work. I think the characters were a bit like not flashed out enough. Like they're very plain. They're also really unlikable. However, this book did put me through some heavy emotional devastation and I feel like my book club reads are always like a little closer to my heart just because I get to read them with my best friends on the internet, you know, so they always mean a lot more to me, and I think I always enjoy the books a lot more than probably I would have if I would have read them alone. So the book is still like 3.5, 4 stars. I had a great time reading it. It's not the best book ever though. But the idea of it is so fun and special. Like, I would suggest you read it. Okay, moving along, and you guys will not believe this if I tell you, but I actually didn't just read one, I read two of my Fairy Loot special editions this month. Like, you're still girl, I don't know. I usually heavy procrastinate reading my Fairy Loot books, so I was surprised. Okay, I was even surprised that I read two. And listen, let me tell you, I absolutely love them. So, book one that I read, and listen up, okay? This review is for ASMR for everyone only, okay? She's my girl, okay? And the whole time I was reading this book, I was thinking about how much she would love this book. I did tell her that, but you guys have to convince her that she needs to read this book, because I think she would love it. Anyway, the next book I read is The Glittering Edge by Alyssa, Villaire, and this will be part of a duology, and I'll tell you something further later, but I am at this point physically pained by the books that I've loved so much and have not been able to continue reading. But this is very, very cute. I love this red edge on this. Can you see the kitty? It is so, so sweet. And I love the artwork in this book. It is such a stunning copy, and I thought the storyline was so, so fun. This is part of the YA subscription, so this is a YA fantasy. However, I think it was perfect. It was so good. It is very whimsical. I would personally say this is a awesome read of autumn / fall. Like, this is the perfect book to cozy up. And again, I was really sick. I had a really big cold for the past 2 weeks, and I was just laying in bed all day and couldn't do much. And this book, I read it then, and this book is truly to its core such a cozy, whimsical, perfect read. I almost wish I would have read this in fall, because I think that would have been like the absolute perfect vibe. Like, if you want to read this, read it with a cup of tea, a coffee, you know, cozy up in a blanket, get your cat if you have one, get your dog if you have one. emotional support animal, you know, I don't care what it is. And really enjoy this book, you know. But let me tell you what it is about. So we follow Penny. Penny is our main character. And she gets dragged into this kind of family feud that's been going on for years between the DeLucas and the Barians. They are both very old families settled in this small town that they live in, and the DeLucas happen to be a family of witches, and the Barians are like really rich humans. However, their story is kind of intertwined, and there's kind of some backstory lore. However, the point of contention between these two families is that the like grandmother, I think there's a girl, okay, the grandma girly, she was first with the DeLuca grandpa and then ended up marrying the Barian grandpa, and then the DeLuca grandparent allegedly cursed the Barian family that, and this is like the big plot in here, that everyone who falls in love with a Barian, no, everyone who's loved by a Barian, so if a Barian falls in love with someone, does that make sense? They will end up dying. Very sad. So this is kind of the point of contention. The Barians are obviously super annoyed that they cannot love anyone, and that everyone who they love, it dies. And the Lucas are very annoyed because they constantly get blamed. However, they are sure they're innocent and that actually didn't happen. And now both of these families have sons in the same age. There's Alonso, DeLuca, and I forgot his name. Really quickly sneak. Corey Barian. And they're kind of public enemies in the school and stuff. And then obviously we've Penny, our girly. So Penny goes to school with these two rival guys, and then one day something terrible happens to her mom, and her mom ends up in a coma because you've guessed it, a Barian is in love with her mom. So she tries to get both of these enemies to help her break this century-old curse. And from there on, we kind of go on to this hunt. And I don't know, I enjoyed this book so much. The storyline is really well paced and interesting. The characters are interesting. We get a little hint of a romance. We get so much whimsical magic, and there's so many interesting characters. Like the side characters are super interesting and super fleshed out, even though they're like really short. The setup of this book is just so inherently cozy. It is so cute. It's kind of like, what would be the best way to describe it? I almost think it's like Stranger Things in like a Gilmore Girls setting. That is kind of the vibes I got from this book. But I loved it so much. The ending. I like need book 2 immediately, and I'm very, very sad that won't be coming out until next year. Like, very sad. I really enjoyed this book. I think I gave it 5 stars, or 4.5. Yeah, 4.5. I love this story so much. It is as I get. The only thing I will say, what I thought it was a bit confusing, obviously I just kind of told you what's happening to Penny and her mom. And Penny is in high school, okay? And like at points she just seems to like completely not care about that. And I feel sometimes for Penny especially, the like emotional depth is missing a little bit, but that kind of adds to the fun in the book because it's just not that deep, you know. At the same time, I feel like in a YA book, you know, you can't get too much into depth about like the inner emotional trauma you would have if your mum is in a coma, you know. So I kind of get it, but at the same time, I was missing it a little bit. But yeah, I really loved this book. I really, really loved it, and I think a lot of you would enjoy this book as well. It is such a nice read. Such a nice read. Okay, my beautiful ASMR for everyone. If you're watching this, I like need you to read this book because I need to know if you love it as much as I do. And I think you'd enjoy it so much, so you know, I have something for you, TBR. Take it. But yeah, a very good read that I would very highly recommend for cozy, spooky, witchy season. Then I almost forgot about this book, but this was my audiobook of the like recent month and a half that I was listening every time I was driving in my new car. Anyway, I was listening to The Maid by Nita, Prose, and I think this is quite a famous book, and it's part of the Molly the Maid series. So what is happening is we follow Molly, who is a maid. Who would have got a thought? In this grand hotel, in this like 5-star hotel, and one day she finds one of the regulars dead in the room, and then she's kind of trying to find out what's going on. There's like other people that work as staff involved, like the butler and the cook, like they're friends, you know, like they're all somehow in this story, and like they kind of trying to figure this out together. Realistically, it gave me a bit of Only Murders in the Building vibes. I've only seen like a few episodes of that show. I've actually been meaning to continue it because it seems like such a perfect cozy show. Regardless though, Molly is a bit of an oddball. It is not actually like diagnosed within the book itself, but she is written in a way that it's very obvious that she's somewhat neurodivergent somewhere, I think, personally. But I personally didn't love the way he was presented as a representative of, you know, neurodivergence in general. Again, it isn't made clear that she's diagnosed or that she even has like anything what I'm like referring to, you know, so I don't want to make any assumptions of like where this could fall into. However, she is, you know, very into the whole cleaning thing, and her like co-workers are not very nice to her because she's like a real cleanliness freak, and she knows very little about social human interactions. Like, she's not very good at that, and she misunderstands a lot of interactions with other people, which within the story kind of leads to her being like the butt of the joke a lot. Like, her co-workers are like calling her like the Roomba and stuff, as in like she's like a cleaning robot. And she is very naive. Like, she is like, people are taking advantage of her girl, okay, throughout the like entire book, and in the end it kind of like, she kind of gets her revenge in a way. However, for me, kind of the damage was already done like, I ended up giving the book 3 stars, I think. Yeah, like, it is, like, it's not really a thriller per se, because she's too, like, quirky for it. And, like, if you're reading the story, you're kind of not super thrilled, because you kind of see through her getting taken advantage of, and you kind of have an idea what's happening and who's behind it. And like all I wanted to do was kind of like shake her and be like, no, don't do that. Do not do that. Like, she's presented in a way where she's very naive and kind of plays into the hands of like what's going on and like doesn't understand a lot of things. And I'm just not sure if I love that from like a representative point of stand, because I think the intention behind writing it like that was to write like a quirky book of like this quirky girlie who's like super naive and like just doesn't get it, and it's just like, I don't know, it rubs me the wrong way, because I feel like that is personally misrepresenting to neurodivergent community. And I have a lot of issues with like misrepresentation of in books, you know, and I feel like the whole book is based on her being like that. Like, I don't know where I'm going with what I'm saying, but it just rubbed me the wrong way. Like, I know nothing about the author, and if she is, you know, part of the neurodivergent community herself, but especially if she's not, I'm a bit confused as to why you would write a book like that. However, like really, I didn't think the book was that great. You can kind of see through the entire plot. It's just our main character is so naive that she doesn't, you know, and like so, like she can't interpret human interactions like you as the listener are already interpreting it, you know. So it's a bit weird. I didn't love the story. I did finish it because I was intrigued enough to continue. But yeah, I don't want to talk about it. I give it 3 stars. Like, really, it's nothing special. Like, the plot is just, you get it. It's so, you know so quickly who it is and what's happened. It just takes ages because, anyway, I will not be continuing the series. I don't think I won't be, because I think there's more stories about Molly the Maid. But yeah, it just felt a little bit tacky to me. It almost felt like the author was making fun of Molly the Maid and was kind of on purpose being very obtuse and naive with her, which I didn't love. But yeah, moving along, I don't know if I would recommend it. It's definitely like a humorous thriller. If anything, it is not a like suspenseful thriller. But yeah, I wasn't a big fan. Regardless, if you loved it, you know, I'm happy for you. But moving along, the next book I read and loved, I'm telling you, I loved this book, is A Dance of Lies by Brittney Arena, and look how gorgeous this copy is. Stunning. Oh my god, I loved this book so much. I think I give it 4.75 stars. It was so good. So we are kingdoms, but there's like one big kingdom that is split into the 3 ruling areas because the previous king split it between his 3 sons. And we are following our main character, Ashley, who is a dancer. She's a dancer girly, but something happens that put her into the misfortune of one of the 3 ruling brothers, the King Elian, and he threw her into prison, into his like dungeons for it. This is definitely kind of a like typical like whimsical fantasy world. We're not in like the actual world, you know. We're very much in that like castles and everything, you know, world. So our girl has spent 2 years in the dungeon, and this is kind of where we start the book off, and then King Elian kind of gets her back out because there is this big meeting, kind of a summit, where all the rulers meet, and he kind of has some things going on he wants to accomplish. So he wants her to act as one of the entertainment staff. He wants her to dance and to spy on everyone and kind of be his little spy for giving her back her freedom. However, our girl has spent 2 years in prison. She is mentally and physically not in a good state, and she basically, like, right in the beginning of the book, she can barely walk, and the thing is, the entire book is a like chronic illness slash disability representation. So my girl Vasily, she has, again, like, she obviously suffered through very, very heavy physical as well as mental trauma through being in prison, and like not a fun prison, okay, not like what do you think in prison, like chained to the wall prison in this fantasy world. And you know, everything hurts, like she can't even walk properly, like she's out of energy super quickly, which is kind of the like chronic illness part, which Brittney Arena herself, in Very Lewd, there's always like a really nice like letter by the author, and they're always super emotional, and I really like learning more about the thoughts from the authors behind books. I think that makes it really special. So Brittney Arena in her letter in Very Lewd talks a lot about her own chronic illness that, you know, doesn't allow her to get out of bed sometimes, and she kind of reflects that in Vasily. So throughout the entire book, she kind of really struggles with her disability, with a chronic illness, and she is kind of still under a lot of pressure to actually perform though, because to get her freedom, to not go back to prison, she needs to do all these things. This very cruel king wants of her, and then throughout this book we obviously end up going to this summit, and I'm trying not to spoil anything, but it's kind of what's happening right in the beginning. And yeah, Vasily somehow has to figure out how to make dancing work, even though she like can't really. And it might also be one of those 3 brothers. It's kind of cute. We might be getting into that. And yeah, our girl's kind of thrown into this like political intrigue situation. We got a lot of different people following different motives. And let me be completely honest, in the beginning of reading this book, I thought it was going to be like a good 4-star read. I didn't think it was going to be a 5-star read, but then towards like 50-60% of the book, like the book itself reads very easily. We don't have like too much world building going on, or any like too heavy lore for like a political intrigue fantasy. But but towards the middle point, so many revelations come up and so many things start to happen. It gets so good. Like, so good. It was delicious in the best sense of the word. I was so upset when I finished this book, and now I have to wait for so long till next year for the next book. I'm gonna have to wait so long. Oh, I don't know how to process this. I have no idea. Right now have so many books that I would love to continue, and I have to wait for the books. Like, my heart is just, I cannot take it anymore. This book was so good. The ending was like top tier. It was one of my favorite endings. Like, probably not. Like, it was one of the best endings I've like ever read. Like, surely top 10. And this book just, it broke my fucking heart. Okay, like, one, female love interest. I'm drooling. Two, Vasily is iconic. Okay, she's such a strong female main character, and with all her like physical and mental problems she's having, as I've mentioned, she overcomes so much in this book, and she's very much not the like Selena Sadothian, you know. She's very much not a Freya who kind of grows into magic and kind of grows into being this warrior goddess. Okay, she has a physical impairment and it's not going away, and she has to figure out how to become the hero of her own story, even with her disability. And I think personally there is so much power and empowerment in this book. I'm getting emotional. Like, this book is so well written, and I think this can give so much love and energy and healing to so many people. And I think this book, in the truest sense of the word, okay, is so much representative of you need to be, or you can be, the hero of your own story, and whatever happens to you is not your end, and you will find another way to make your life beautiful and big, and you will be the hero of your own story. And yeah, I had to cry. This book is perfect. Okay, the pacing is great. We are really like going between different settings. There's a lot happening. Like, there's a lot of dancing. I think if you enjoy dancing, you're like gonna love this book just because of that already. There's so many side characters that I love, that I'm so excited to see again. I want to read this book again. Like, right now. I read this like a week ago. I want to read it again right now because it's so perfect. It's so perfect. This is for sure with The Rose Bargain, one of my favorite reads of this year. Like, this book. If I could, I would like physically buy it for each and every one of you, okay? But unfortunately, you need to get it yourself, okay? But this is so good, I promise. I think so many of you would absolutely love and devour this book. And I will accept no criticism on this book, okay? This book is, it's so perfect. I'm so in love with the story. I think it's also a bit of a refreshing story in the whole like fantasy world of stories that we've read over and over and over. said, is already out completely. And he finally started Blood and Steel by Helen Scheuerer. And literally, I have never in my life gotten so many comments from you guys as I got about this book, okay? You guys were telling me that I was going to love this book, and you're absolutely correct. I have no excuse as to why it took me so long to finally read this book. I read and finished this book within 48 hours because I just ate it up. And I'm very, very excited that the rest of the series is already out. I even have the first book of the spin-off series, and that was kind of how we got to you guys telling me that I need to read the series. Like, this is truly a book I only got because of you guys. But I got the spin-off series, which is, I forgot, the Chronicles of Thesma, something like that. As a very late edition, the first book is called Iron and Embers. And I started the book and I was really, really confused because it felt like there were books before that, and then, you know, I was bringing it up and you guys were telling me about the entire series that kind of comes before it. I've heard there are people who read it on its own and still enjoyed it, but I was kind of like, I need to go back and like I need to get started from the beginning. However, I really enjoyed the first book, and the great thing is there's already the next 3 books out. I already have the first book of the spin-off series, and I just saw that the second book in the spin-off series is already also out. So this is great news for me. In this book, we follow Althea, short Thea, who grew up in Phasma, which is kind of, as far as my understanding, this like warrior guild camp. Like, in my head, it's like this big castle. Like, think like Knight's Castle that is like full of like people working there, and like the soldiers. It's like the training ground, but there's also like other people who live there and are there. And she grows up as an alchemist because in her world there has been a prophecy that says if a woman wields a blade, the veil, and the veil is going to be like a huge thing throughout the book because the veil is like the biggest threat to their realm. Because the veil is kind of mysterious to me because I have no idea what actually is happening there. But apparently this veil, there's like monsters coming through, and there's like this other world behind it, a world full of monsters that are a threat to their realm. So the prophecy says if a woman wields blade, or a woman that wields a blade is gonna bring down the veil, and kind of this huge war is gonna happen. So women are like outruled from having knives, having blades, you know, and they're also not allowed to train in the army of Thesma. However, Althea is very much a wild child. She's always wanted nothing more than to train as a warrior. And then, you know, stuff happens, and she actually is able to. And that's kind of where we like go off for the story here. And then there's these 3 legendary fighters, so you can be like a normal soldier, or you can become a war sword. It's kind of, the word is weird to me, a war sword. And those are kind of like really legendary warriors. They're like approved by their gods. They have like special strength and everything. And there's currently 3 who are alive: Tori, Vantage, and Warren. Is that his name? progressing within the romance for a really, really long time, and like not really at all. So I didn't mind too much. However, it is very clear from like page 2 who the love interest is going to be, and that it's going to be a love interest. Okay, like we know. I kind of looked for the spot, and we kind of know from here on out who the love interest is and why and what's good. Like, okay, so this is no spot. However, the entire story is very, very, very like war and war training heavy. I loved it. I gobbled it up. I gave this book 5 stars. Okay, I am so excited for the rest of the series. I cannot even tell you how excited I am. It's got everything that I love about a good fantasy romance. We have a lot of side characters that are already made up to like be very likable. We got like political intrigue. We got like an opponent. Like monsters, I just like really care about. You can do like super gross things to them. I don't mind humans on the other side. It's like, I think it's always a bit more iffy, but if there's like a supernatural opponent, like I don't care, you know, no moral issues with anything. If it's like monsters, you know, non-human monsters. So, anyway, I really, really enjoyed this book. Okay, I enjoyed the romance, even though I'm like not 100% sold on it, just because it was quite quick. But I get it, girl. Like, me too. Kinda, you know. So, I am quite excited for where this is going, because the romance is definitely it was insta list, but we're definitely very slowly progressing any kind of romance. So I think the next book, like, we're gonna get nothing. We're gonna get nothing. Even though I heard the next book's quite spicy, so maybe we are getting something. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed the book. It's very fast paced. The like constantly things happening, like the whole academy vibe and the whole like we're training. There's like war going on, like stuff is happening. I feel like it's very reminiscent of not the story but the pacing that we got in Fourth Wing. Just that there's like constantly some sort of danger we have to get through, and then this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. There's something happening within the academy, then there's something happening with an outside threat. So we're kind of getting that, which I personally love. Enough. And yeah, I'm like really excited to read this entire series now. And then I have the spin-off series. And I will say, I am slightly spoiled because I know who the spin-off series is about. So I know they don't, like, nothing horrible happens to them. But I think I can live with that, you know. I can live with that knowledge because I obviously read, like, I think I read the first chapter of Iron and Embers, and I always knew who it was about. So from the get-go, we meet those two characters, and I thought from the get-go that would be a good match. So I am quite excited to continue this series. I hope it stays as good as I thought the first book is. I do have the second book ordered. It is coming tomorrow, so I am very excited. a songwriter and a pop star who can all of a sudden hear some magical music in heads and can like hear themselves in heads, and you kind of need to figure out this connection and this song they're hearing. However, I paused reading this book because Ashley Poston writes super emotional stories, and there's like something going on in my personal life with the health of my mom, which I'm not too excited about, but I'm trying not to get too caught up in not worrying about. But one thing our female main character deals with in this book is the possibility of losing her mum to Alzheimer. And the book is about, you know, it's also very heavy on making memories with her mother and like potentially, you know, their future or the not future with her mum, which is right now a topic I cannot deal with. I'm trying to be positive about my own mum, you know, and I currently am. So I will continue it. Just not now. I think I need a bit of a time to let it sit, you know. But I will, because I love Ashley Poston's writing, and the book is really good so far, and I'm on page 100. So, but yeah, one last thing I wanted to show you before we call it a day is our book club read for September, which will be Shield of Asparagus by Daphne Perry. And it's so thick, and I love it. I've been waiting to read this book for so long, because this was for a while a discussion for a book club pick. And I'm so beyond excited that we are finally reading it together. So, if you would also like to read this book with us, come join the Fable. It is completely free, and we'll be chatting about this book. And I'm really excited because you guys on there are my favorite people. And I have so much fun every month reading this book with you, books with you guys. So if you want, come and join. But this will be everything for this video. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. Do let me know what your favorite read of the month was. I love you so much. Thank you for watching.